How's everybody doing today?
Oh, just great.
I'm good too. Thank you for asking.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. Like I said, we have Pacifica here from Fresno who's read my book, Dragonflies and Demons. That's available on Amazon. And then we also have her boyfriend, Mike, who is a drug counselor in rehab. So we're going to have a discussion here with these two for the first time with Dragonflies Discussions podcast. So let's get started. So how are you guys feeling? I know I've already asked you that, but I know it's hot. I know the weather's been sticky. Bakersfield, how's it been? Has it been even worse than Bakersfield?
It's about the same right now. It's a little warm, but usually when it's 110 here, it's 108 or 100 or 112. It's around the same temperature.
Right.
It's just a little more dry, and the area is a little more spread out.
Gotcha. And you? How are you managing the heat?
Oh, I just eat a lot of popsicles. But I got them for my son, but I found myself chowing down on them too. So,
hey, I still have those Otter Pops in my freezer.
Right.
The good old Otter
awesome.
Pops. Okay, well, so Pacifica, I know you've read my book. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you've been a part of a Lit Hop event that we've done together. So
yes.
Give me a little bit of feedback. What was maybe your first impression of the book?
I thought it was a very heartfelt, honest story, you got into the nitty-gritty, raw details of just how bad it was, with your addiction and everything. And it's hard to admit to ourselves, how we are at a certain point in time. And just the whole, come around from that, I know you mentioned that you were first, you picked up and left one rehab center because you told yourself you didn't want to be there, and it takes a few times to kind of come back and,
Mm-hmm.
For some people and really realize they need the help. You have to make the decision yourself,
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Mike, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I think that your book, I read the beginning of it, and it stood out that it reminds me of, it had a lot of good recovery knowledge early on, and it just felt real, There's music I listen to, and there's recovery music, and it felt a lot of that has a real tone to it, especially like the artist Cleachy.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot of good music about addiction and recovery, and it felt real like that.
Amen. Good. Thank you. Thank you. And I know, Pacifica, you personally, you had relative experiences with what I had gone through with your own walks of life and your own struggles. Can you maybe share a little bit about those?
Yeah, I just gotta say, I think with the way you described, your whole love life, it kind of either went too well with your love life, but in the wrong direction, or where you found yourself, you had companions that you were doing drugs with, and that's how you guys bonded and everything. But in the end, it ruined the relationship. And I know I've been in that situation before where I was, on certain things during those times, and I realized that now, it was probably better, just to stay away from that person. But then it's also twisted how when, when you're not in a relationship, you're just kind of wild and, out there, where we mentioned, soliciting ourselves for money and whatnot. And I know I could kind of compare. I never did that exactly, but I don't know. I used to just kind of find guys on Tinder and stuff sometimes, and sometimes I would hang out with them just if they would get me drunk, and everything. And I can really relate to how it's we were willing to sell our bodies for just a little bit more, and that's the only reason you really even are there, and it's just kind of a sad place we put ourselves in. But I feel I could really relate to the whole on and off, love or non-love relationship of it,
And that's, I'm very glad that you bring that up, because it's very brave to talk about such a subject of what my book does touch on. It doesn't touch on it to a degree, but we can have a conversation on just that. We can talk about
Totally.
the power of a woman's body, the negative and positives, and also in a drug addiction, what people will do to suffice and fill that addiction. And a person doesn't wake up every day saying, "Hey, I'm going to be a prostitute." A woman doesn't. Even a man doesn't. A person doesn't wake up every day saying, "I'm going to sell my body, and this is the way I'm going to support myself." I don't think that's something that's born in us. I think we're forced to make that decision when we're in a situation such as a drug addiction, or maybe having to just apply for your life. Maybe you don't have a drug addiction, but maybe your body is your source of income. Maybe you're a dancer. Maybe you are on social media in a public way with your body and making money. I think there was a danger. I'm really grateful that I never got raped. I never was abducted for a sex trade because I definitely put myself out there, and I share about that in my book. But it is very critical for that relational type of love. There's romantic love. There's the raw type, love where there's no emotion. You just have sex and there's no emotion. But I still think that every time you're intimate with someone, there is somewhat of a connection, whether it's for money or whether it's for love. I think there is some type of connection that you're left with in a way. Mike, how's your perspective on that whole topic? What would you say?
I think the thing is, when we're in our addiction, we make a lot of wrong choices, whether it's that or other things. I think the drug starts to control us, and someone who is not just borderline addicted, but is completely addicted, especially if it's opioids or stimulants like methamphetamine or fentanyl, it starts taking over your life. And the decision isn't whether I want to use or not, it's how I'm going to use and what I need to do to use.
Yep.
As I share in my groups on the cycle of addiction really doesn't start until your body physically needs it, and then you're truly in your addiction.
That's
when
true.
your body physically needs it, you'll do anything for it.
That's true.
Yeah.
You pretty much will do anything for
When you
it.
wake up and that's all you can think about. First thing,
Yeah, I mean, Joyce Myers, I don't follow her per se. I used to. I appreciate her work, but Joyce Myers has that book, Battlefield of the Mind, and it really, truly is a battlefield of the mind. Every day you have to wake up and decide what's important and if you're going to give in to that addiction or if you're going to fight it. It's really a choice. It's really a choice. And it doesn't come easy. I struggled for many years in my drug addiction, as you can read in the book too. I didn't imagine a day or an hour or a minute without being high. I mean, my body was shaking if I didn't get high. And that was horrible. And I remember going through rehab, and it took a week or so for me to just get out of detox, for my body just to stop shaking and sweating and just to kind of feel normal. My appetite, my bowel movements came back to, everything came back to normal just within almost a week or two of detox. And then, of course, you go into the other side of long-term rehab, and then that's where you really make your decisions on if you want to stay sober and change your life. So, Mike, tell me, why did you get into becoming a counselor? What made you do that?
Well, when I started out at school, I struggled because I was using too much marijuana and alcohol, and I ended up going to treatment. From there, I ended up going to City College because I started over. I originally started a 4-year college in Moraga, California called St. Mary's. Went there for a couple years. Went to Fresno State for a year and then back there. And all the time the reason why I kept staying at the schools going from Fresno State back there was because I was in my addiction with marijuana, and it was hard for me to say no, so I wanted to go somewhere where I can continue my addiction. And then I went to treatment. I work with a therapist, and now and I went to City College, and from there I learned about I started taking classes from all different subjects, and substance abuse counseling was the one I found the most interested in. I've always wanted to help people, and from there I got a bachelor's degree in criminology, and I now work in this field, and I enjoy it a lot.
Amen. Helping others is really the topic, really. I mean, that's the goal. That's the whole reason why I'm even starting this podcast and beginning this journey, is to share our experiences, my experience, your experience, so that we can help others, because I know we're not alone. There's many people out there who are relating to what we've already shared so far, and it's worth the journey of making it happen and helping others. It's so rewarding. Pacifica, tell me some of your own personal journeys that you've overcome as well. I know you've overcome a lot.
You know, I could tell you the moment I realized that I finally needed help, it took me a while to go back to, because I too have been, in a clinic at least before, a mental health facility, because of alcohol, and also I am bipolar. And so that definitely didn't mix very well, and there were days that I was just drinking so much. I mean, I even sometimes took like a couple shots on the way to work, because I ride the bus and there's a liquor store at every bus stop, and it's hard to resist. And, and then I just, went a little nuts one day at work, and I kept hearing voices, telling me to harm myself or kill myself and all these other things. And it kind of drove me a little insane. So I broke down, and I did not tell anybody that I was leaving. I left my work at my desk, and I walked out, and the first place I went was to the liquor store, bought a bottle of scotch, and I was just walking down to the bus stop, walking home from the bus stop, taking shots here and there, and I decided that night that I was going to give in to the voices, and that I was going to physically harm myself. I said, you know what? At that point in time, I had a lot of money in savings for some reason, but I decided I was just going to do the stupidest thing ever and go check myself into a nice hotel and just, use it all on room service, whatever, the spa or whatever. And then, by the end of the night, I was going to be so drunk that I would break the bottle and hurt myself with it, And I think I felt a touch of God that night, because I got to the hotel and I was so oblivious in my state of mind that I didn't even realize it was a holiday. And when I got there, there were no vacancies, and they told me I could go try the hotel down the way. Well, me being in the state of mind I was in, I didn't even make it to the next hotel, wound up parked on a bus bench, and it was at this point like midnight, because for some reason I thought the bus was still coming at that time.
No, they don't.
And so I basically passed out for, I want to say, 2 or 3 hours, woke up at about 2 or 3 a.m. And I realized, I was like, I am like those bums you find sleeping on a bench in the middle of nowhere. I was like, this is how you're going to end up if you don't just get help. And I was like, I was seriously set out to harm myself, but luckily I saw that I never made it to the hotel. So there was a reason for that. And luckily there was another little saving grace, little guardian angel. There was a cop pulling someone over right in front of the bus stop. And I don't know what the reason was for that, but right when he was done with his business, I just walked up to him and I practically burst into tears. Aww. And I said, you know what, officer, I'm drunk and I'm up to no good and I just want to go home. Aww. And being the good, citizen he was, he took me and he just took one look at me and kind of smirked like, wow, this girl for real, And wow. He asked me for my address and took me home. And then I realized even when I got home, I was still searching for alcohol because my brother found me in the morning passed out over the refrigerator. It was a mini fridge, so I was leaning over it and I had apparently was searching for something in there, and in the morning he found me like that, and then I woke up and I came to, and I was like, wow, last night really happened. This really just happened, you know. If you don't get help, you know, you're gonna really do some harm to yourself, you know. And so I just took those little signs, you know, and then it took me a few times to go back and actually like get the help, because I did spend a few different occasions in a mental facility, and just, you know, once I did, they put me on some medications, and I've really lowered my drinking a whole lot. I haven't quit per se totally, but I do eliminate, I try to eliminate hard alcohol, and I just, you know, really try to focus back on that day every time I think I want more than what I should drink, you know. So
thank you for sharing, Pacifica. Wow, I don't know if you've shared all that with me to that detail. Yeah. And for our viewers, Pacifica and I know each other from a work job that we've worked together, and never did I ever think that we would become so close of friends. We worked just a few seats down, and I knew of you. You were a lot longer in the company than I was, and I just am really glad to get to know you more on a personal level now that we left that place. And you're such a delight to get to know, and I'm really glad to have you as my first guest. Yeah.
I feel like we've really kind of helped each other, you know, like I'm able to discuss with you about your book, and, you know, I read your book, and I can really relate to a lot of things in it. I love sharing stories with you, you know, and becoming closer about this, and I'm really glad we're here today doing this, because it is, I think, all three of our goals to help people. So and, you know, that's it right there.
So I'm going to switch topics here, because I know my book, I want to just touch, we've talked about the recovery part about my book, but what about the spirituality? I know you just got baptized. And so I believe in all of our walks of life, I really believe that having some kind of spiritual connection is key. Whatever that religion or faith may be, that's up to you and your walk in life and your personal relationship with your higher power. But I do believe in having that spiritual connection, because I know when I was in my last rehab, I was able to connect with God. I was able to find a divine connection with God, and I felt like I was in the Garden of Eden. And I talk about that in my book as well, that I was able to go to a rehab over in Pennsylvania, Dover, Pennsylvania. It was called New Life for Girls, and it completely changed my life. And I was able to find a direct divine connection with God, and form this lineage with Him, almost vertical. And so that's why, like, my tagline is "Live vertically," because I live vertically, and I think that that's key to being sober. And a lot of people find value in the horizontal things. They find horizontal value in the places and the people and the items and the monetary things. And maybe it's that car, or it's that man, or it's that body, or it's that house, or it's that job, or it's that income. But none of those things will really keep you solid if you really don't have a faith, a spiritual connection that keeps you grounded. And that spiritual connection can be, it could be anything. It could be really anything. I find spiritual connection in nature. I find spiritual connection in hummingbirds, in birds, in art, in dragonflies, in writing, in music, in dance. So how do you guys, I would like to see your perspective on that very topic. I'll start with you, Mike, first.
I think my spirituality is developed from an author. His books, if you've heard the author, his name is Mitch Albom. He wrote a bunch of books. One of my favorite books of his is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. And he reminds me of how powerful life is, but how vulnerable it is. And in the book, you meet the 5 most influential people in your life right before going to heaven. And I thought that, and then you later on do it yourself. You're there for 5 more people yourself. Wow. And that's why it's called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. And that's helped me. And the other one that helped me was, he has a book called Have a Little Faith. And one of my favorite quotes comes from, he has a movie version of both of those. And the rabbi says, when we're born, our hands are grabbing everything, trying to touch everything. And when we die, our hands are open and empty. Because when we die, we leave with nothing. But when we enter Earth, we want everything. So that really helped me. And I think his books are what opened me up to spirituality in the first place. And I think nowadays, I'm growing spiritually as a person. I think spirituality is something you continuously grow. So
it's like a muscle. It really is. Your spirituality is like a muscle. I know I've grown ever since when I got home from rehab in 2005, and then shortly after I lost my dad, I was invited to the book The Secret, and that touched on the law of attraction and energy and manifestation and all that. So that catapulted my life into a whole nother spiritual realm. So there's different levels and there's different areas of places to be, as long as it's guiding you in the right direction, I think, and producing a positive effect. I think that's good. Go ahead, Pacifica, share us with your experience.
Oh, well, I have a few different views of spirituality. I mean, I like to refer to certain movies or shows that I like that to help myself vision it. I mean, mostly I just read the signs, like with my experience of what happened, I took not being admitted into the hotel as a sign, a cop coming to save me, that was a sign. But I kind of like to relate to there's Japanese anime, Studio Ghibli films. He has a lot of them. I know that's kind of silly.
No.
But there's certain films like Spirited Away, and where there's a river spirit that comes to save this girl that would have drowned in the water. And this evil woman's trying to take her away and make her work for her and everything, but she takes away your name and makes you forget who you are. And he couldn't even remember his name because he'd been working for her for so long. But I don't know. You just have to. It's hard to explain how you have to know what's real and what's not real in that sense. Mm-hmm. And the evil woman even turned her parents into pigs, and and she's put them out in a fence in a little yard with a bunch of other pigs, and made her pick which ones were her parents, and then said she could leave with them like normal. And when she got there, she wasn't fooled, and she said, "But none of these are my parents." And that was the truth, because I think it's seeing beyond what's really there, And I really kind of like those Hayao Miyazaki Studio Ghibli films, because he always puts a spiritual message in his films, and they're these really cute cartoons. So that's just kind of how I visualize it.
That's amazing that you're able to share that, because a lot of people who are able to see symbolism in things that happen in their lives, whether good or bad, if they're able to see that, they can learn and overcome and just move forward, I think, a little better.
Right.
Thank you. So we are about 5 minutes in, I think. I don't know how long we've been recording.
24.
24 minutes? Oh, nice. Hey, it says it right up there. I'm learning. This is the first podcast. Thank you, Mike.
No problem.
Okay, 24 minutes. Ooh, that's good. Well, I really didn't have much on the agenda to really talk about. It's kind of freestyle today.
Of course.
Okay.
Why don't you just kind of give maybe some last few minutes of your own personal message that maybe you want to give to the world, being your personal experience, what you've been through. What would you individually like to say? Because we are all three of us are on the path of helping others, right? We want to help others. So maybe share a few minutes of words of what you would give to the world, to those struggling in your own capacity? Pacifica, if you want to go first, and then Mike, and then I'll go.
Well, I have another little story to share that I can basically present my message with. Basically, it's about forgiveness. To forgive others who've hurt you and to forgive yourself for your wrongs, even in all your addiction. That's the hardest part because you've been through so much and wronged yourself so much, or maybe you were wronged by someone else who was either on drugs or alcohol. And so with that, I'd just like to share another little story that is about me and my brother, who was also an alcoholic and on and off a few other drugs. There was this one time when we were living together, we had a few roommates, and it was kind of like a party frat house all day, all night, people constantly drinking and smoking and whatnot. And I was in between jobs at the time, only working seasonally. And so in my off season, we used to get in a lot of fights because he felt I wasn't contributing enough. And even though I was making unemployment, I wasn't, able to provide as much and everything. And he just didn't like to see me sit around the house. So he also had a lot of anger issues. So he was always kind of taking them out on me. And, one day I had enough of, being told I'm a piece of shit and all that whatnot, and I said something so mean to him that I can't even repeat it. Well, he, of course, was holding a drink at the time in a beer mug, and he took that and threw it directly at me. Now, I know he wasn't aiming to hit me. I think it was more for scare, but it did hit me right smack on the face and scarred me, and my face started gushing blood, and my roommates helped me rinse off, and took me to the ER as soon as I got there, the towel was soaked, and I was still shimmying shards of glass out of my shirt and everything. And I had to get, wait around to get my face stitched up and everything. But the thing I thought was about the forgiveness is when the cops came and approached me and asked if I wanted to press charges. That was another part of my spirituality and everything that I felt, because I feel like me and my brothers have kind of a spiritual triforce between the three of us. And basically I'm the peace and love in the triangle, and my brother who threw the beer mug at me is the strength and power, and our other brother is the logic and wisdom. And all I felt was love for my brother. I felt like he had somehow, this had happened to me for a reason, because when I got home, our other roommate said that when he was there, after we left, he basically froze, and he just stopped and stared at the wall where all the blood spatter was for like 20-30 minutes straight, and then burst into tears. And this is someone I've rarely seen cry my whole life.
So he knew right away.
Yes. And I realized that it was in my best interest to forgive him, because all I felt was love for my brother, and that somehow I had to go through this because he passed some of his strength on to me in exchange for a little bit of my love.
Wow.
And that's how it goes.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to turn that around. Wow.
So it's important to, and he did eventually, it's important to forgive ourselves and those who trespassed against us, as the prayer says.
That's true.
And he did eventually go to rehab, and he hasn't had a drop of alcohol since. And he became my friend again, and we have not fought since.
Good.
So.
Well, that's a good story. Thank you. Thank you. That's a good message about forgiveness. Thank you. Mike, what's your pitch?
Okay, so if I had one, I think of once again a book I've read, a speech I've heard. It's called The Last Lecture, and it's about this professor who he says, "I'm going to give one last lecture. This is what it's going to be about," and it's a great story. But I was thinking about it when you asked me about this, and I have one last lecture I'd like to give. There are people out there who are still suffering from addiction, and there are many ways to recover. whether they make their first step into an AA meeting or NA meeting or any anonymous meeting, or they go to Smart Recovery. They're all there to help. They're all there to say that if you're in your addiction and you need the help, ask for help and you'll get help.
Yeah.
Whether it's from a self-help group to even counseling. And one of the things I would say is when you start that counseling, don't give up. A slip happens, a lapse happens. Just because you use once and you're in treatment and you were sober a week doesn't mean you can't come back.
That's right.
Come back every time. The best people that make it are the ones who come back and don't never give up. Because the only thing left is once you give up, is nothing. So that's my final say. Thank you.
Keep coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one mistake is not coming back.
Correct.
You want to keep coming back. Whether you fail, you'll get it one day.
Yeah.
You'll get it sooner or later. Thank you.
It's just like when the judge in your book told you that this was your final shot.
Yep.
So you knew you had to keep coming back.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Sometimes it takes
I remember
pressure.
that day. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, both of you. I really appreciate this time. I think my message would be for anyone out there listening today to anything that we've shared is to just know that you're not alone. Know that there's a lot of people out there that love you and care about you and experience with you, and that there's tons of us right in the same boat. Just breathe. Give yourself a little bit of time to meditate, because I tell you, if you give yourself even 30 seconds of breath, you breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in,
You got me
breathe out.
breathing in.
you breathe in, you breathe out. And just in that right there, you can set your mind just a little bit. And if you just keep continuing to breathe, it will change. I can't promise you that those bad thoughts may not stop. That's our own control. But yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I had one more thing I wanted to say. There's a reason why in an AA or NA meeting they always leave a chair empty. It's for the addict who still suffers, and they mean it when they put that chair there. I think what you're discussing right now reminded me of that.
You're
and
not
I just
alone.
wanted to say it. Yeah.
There's always a seat there for you at every meeting. There's always a seat. There's always a chair. There's always a place for you to go to. There's always hope. Just like at the end of every tunnel we go through on the road, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And so let's not focus on that darkness as we go through that tunnel, but let's focus on the light that's waiting for all of us. And we all three are examples of the light that is available. We are all success stories. We are all shining people, beautiful people, helping each other and helping others. And so I'm very proud of you both for the legacy and the trials and stuff that you are have walked through. You guys are shining stars, and I'm very happy and grateful that you're my first guests on this show. So I'm very happy.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you
for having us. It was definitely a pleasant experience.
Yeah, and like I said, just don't give up hope if you're still out there, you know. Well, that's the one thing you don't want to do is give up hope.
That's right. That's right. There's always an opportunity for you. So this ends our podcast session. We are about 35 minutes in. Woohoo! I think we did great. So thank you. I'm going to stand up and end the session. Do my little